Well, here we are, live from Boston, Massachusetts, and it's the Green Rush Live. Hi, everybody. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media.
And I'm David Rabinovitz.
And David, did you know that this is an anniversary of sorts of ours?
Yes, it is, Jimmy. This is our 1-year anniversary of the show.
That's right. I at last check, and Lord knows I didn't count them all, but about 50 shows in a year. I think we took 2 weeks off over a total year, and we've been doing it live for a full year from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern now. And I want to, first of all, go on record as saying thank you for being very diligent and committed to the future of this program. So I thank you for that.
You're welcome, Jimmy. You'll be hearing from my agent. I need new hair, new makeup. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Well, I certainly know that you do need a little help. And luckily, as you know, a plastic surgeon has moved in below our world offices here in Wellesley, even though as you look at the screen, it doesn't look like I'm in my office. It actually is from the New England Cannabis Convention in the Heinz Auditorium in Boston, the first face-to-face cannabis convention going on right now in Boston. And that's what you're looking at is footage from today's show that I would say was a pretty darn good turnout for the first day. And we're looking forward to getting back there tomorrow and talking to some more people, about 300 vendors. And I will say there's a huge sense of relief among the vendors and among the people that I've talked to on the floor. And we'll continue to have different footage, if you will, video footage from the show going on behind me. And if we can ever figure out David's situation, we'll get it behind him as well. But we're not fooling anyone. We're not at the show now, but we were there earlier. Okay. Did we set that up good enough? I knew we did. Hey, all the more reason to bring in our first guest, and a guy who's been with us fairly regularly over the last year, and someone we really want to thank for that commitment. His name is Michael Correia. He's the Director of Government Relations for the NCIA. Michael, thank you so much for joining us again here today.
Hey, thank you. And honestly, you had me fooled. I thought you had a live feed going on behind you at the show. So you got me fooled. Good going. I'd like thank you. 1-year anniversary. I feel honored that I get to be on for this. But my question, how's the weather up there? And are you going to a Red Sox game if they're in town?
So to be honest, the Red Sox, let's see, I believe this weekend they're on the road in Chicago, because, needless to say, I still read the sports page first in Boston. I'll admit that. Okay. I do feel like I'm on top of the cannabis scene, but for the most part, when it comes to escape from the real world, I still am a huge sports fan. And it is amazing to think that the Red Sox are actually in a pennant race. And as far as the weather goes, it's been actually one of the best weeks of the summer of the last week or so here in the New England area. And I know the rest of the country has really had a tough time of it. Did you get Ida as Ida, the hurricane, went by?
Yeah, so we had it come through on our way up to the Northeast where it totally rained. It was windy. But I'll be honest with you, you just need a hurricane going through. It's been the most gorgeous weather the past week. Right. It's been great. I personally get depressed when Labor Day hits because I feel like summer's over, but it is some of the nicest weather out in DC. So I was enjoying myself outside today.
Fair enough. And I should also make a mention. Let me just see if I can maneuver here. Wait, I'm going to maneuver here. Oh, it figures. We were live streaming over my shoulder. It is live streaming 24/7 on procannabismedia.com. And I swear I thought my B-roll was long enough to last that, but that's okay. It is what it is. We're right outside the Accounting Buds booth at the New England Cannabis Convention at the Heinz Auditorium. And I'm sure there'll be a few people wandering through our video feed, as it were. Oh, there goes one now. Excuse me, sir. I'm doing a show here. Okay, Michael, you've had your vacation. September 1st has passed. You've analyzed 163 pages of the COA, whatever the official document is to legalize cannabis at the federal level. Did the NCIA put in a report in time, I guess is the question. And what did that report say as far as feedback goes from the industry on what is most important if we look towards cannabis reform, and will we see it in 2021 or two?
So a couple points. The first thing is, yes, we got one in. It was a scramble at the end, a lot of 12-hour, 15-hour days a lot of edits, rewrites, and question marks of multiple people getting stuff done. So we got it done. It's on our website. We have an executive summary that just talks very high view, big picture of what was asked of us, what we view like cannabis reform is needed, how we support cannabis reform, comprehensive reform, and at the same time, we support incremental reform like the Safe Banking Act, that there are minimum qualifications that should be in any reform bill. You know, the biggest thing is creating a system to where people want to be part of this market. Entrepreneurs want to participate, and the illicit market slowly disappears. And so it's not, NCIA's position is definitely, making sure entrepreneurs and small businesses have a chance to succeed in this industry. The last thing all of us want is you have legalization that support that, benefits 5 companies. And what was all this fighting we were doing for all these years to just do that? So there's just that, what we laid out in the executive summary. We reached out to our committee members, our policy council members, our board members, different membership levels, our diversity, equity, and inclusion, scholarship participants to answer very specific questions that the Hill was asking with their expertise. Some of the issues were official NCIA policy positions. Other issues we hadn't totally formed and completed, and made an official position, but they were proposals that were thrown out there as potential ideas. They weren't official NCIA policy, but we wanted to put those out there. Like one of our committees or one of our subcommittees has this idea. It's something to think about. We did 32 pages of that where it was very, very specific responses. And I wanted people to know, and we did a webinar after it to let the world know sort of what we were thinking and what we were doing. But the biggest issue people need to know is it's a discussion draft. They were out there to solicit comments and facilitate a robust discussion. I think that was the exact quote they were using. So NCIA is not officially endorsing this or opposing this. It is giving some recommendations. The endorsement and the opposition will come later on, depending on when they drop this bill and what exactly is in it. So my position has been, do they really want to have a discussion, or their eyes are closed and they want to give us lip service and they're going to do their bill regardless of what we think or what the outside world thinks? That will be determined on when they introduce this bill, which could be a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, who knows? And then once they introduce that bill, we'll relook at it, see how many changes were made, and then take an official endorsement position. But with that, we had NCIA's chief economist, Beau Whitney of Whitney Economics. We asked him to do sort of a study on the economic part, the tax part. That's up there. It's on our website too. If you go through and link to it, you'll find it. But I just wanted to bring up a couple points that were concerning, troubling to us. And we all know how bad 280E is. Right. And when he looked at this from a tax perspective, he said it would be, even as bad as 280E is, the new tax system would be worse than 280E is now. So that already says, okay, you're not helping anyone out. It's still a penalty. The second thing is because of the taxes, it would drive out small and minority businesses and almost force consolidation into the market. Okay, that's not something we are looking for. Right. It would just overall increase the tax burden on the industry overall, not a good thing. And it would have domestic operators would have a disadvantage from international operators. And we all know this is the next great, industry, next great market. Do we want to have it to where now, some other company does this all better and none of our American businesses are thriving on something like this? So he put out a bunch of proposals as far as the taxes and the incentives on that and the behavior. And we know how you tax something can change people's behavior. And so that was very troubling to me. And I'm just being honest, if those provisions weren't changed, I could see us opposing something like that, because we're here to support small businesses. We're here to support entrepreneurship. We're here to allow the illicit market to disappear. Well, if consumers, you and me, keep going, well, these prices are too high, I'm just going to go back to the regular guy I was getting it from, then what good was all that? And you wouldn't get the tax revenue, and you wouldn't get the result you were looking for, and you'd have gray market, and you would have not the result you were looking for. So those are some of the big issues that we came up with in answering our questions. We gave responses to where we thought they should go, and we pointed out some of our concerns. And it is a 30-page document. I can't say everything that was happening here, but that was the biggest concern to me at the high level, was just the tax rate and how it's not going to make it better. Right.
David, I know you continue to monitor our chat room over there on our YouTube feed. I'm want to know if everybody is in there and checking it out while I keep traffic going here on the floor of the New England Cannabis Convention. Anything interesting in that chat room before we move on to the next question for Michael?
No questions yet, but I will throw something up to see if somebody has a question.
Okay. So Michael, we all know that federal tax is almost that federal tax rate of 25% is a non-starter. There is already criticism of the current administration. I believe it was a finance committee member ripped President Biden recently in the media for non-action on the cannabis front. There does seem to be a groundswell of, hey, isn't this nice that we have this public discussion period, but like nothing's going on. I think they're getting a little frustrated with the leadership that's coming from the White House, but you're in the trenches. You have to deal with it, Senate to Senate, senator to senator, state to state. Are you starting to sense any kind of a turn? You had Bernie Sanders in Iowa this week at a town meeting talking about we are making progress, but then he made a very pointed point about, but it's state by state, not at the federal level. Are we really going to see? Do you still feel confident that something's going to happen at the federal level?
I'm not feeling confident, but when I think we did a phone call probably 8 months ago, or we did one of these shows like 8 months ago, and I said, I'm more optimistic now than I've been in 8 years, but it doesn't mean I think legalization or some type of reform is going to happen. Right. And I'll be honest with you, watching and we call it COA, other people call it CAO Act. So, call it chaos, call it whatever you want. We call it COA, so I'll use that acronym.
Okay.
During this whole process, it is a little eye-opening to how such a big, heavy lift this is going to be, and how many stakeholder groups are going to have to be part of this. And right. I've been in DC 25 years. For something really big like this, historic to happen, you need stakeholder groups. You need a lot of momentum, the public behind it, and a lot of support. The public is supportive of this, but are they protesting on the streets? Are they calling members of Congress to say, do this now or else? Not really. And that's one big issue. The second issue, the White House is not signaling to Capitol Hill, get this done and get this done soon. Right. And, quite the contrary, they almost were like, hey, slow down. We don't want something like this. This is what we're thinking. So to me, I'm not being pessimistic. The conditions aren't ripe right now for something good, but the discussion is being had. You have the highest ranking Senate leader who is pushing his bill, who's having a discussion. And that in itself is important. So to me, like, the next big thing will be when this bill drops, whenever that is, how many co-sponsors are on it? And then what type of traction is this getting with advocates, with industry? What's the buzz around something like this? And if it's a non-starter and it's DOA and no one's talking about it, then we're going to have to pivot and move on to something else and then see where we go, whether that's incremental, whether that's the MORE Act, whether that's something else. But that's sort of where I'm at now. I just, honestly, I don't want to wait 6 months for that to happen. I would like it sooner rather than later, like in the next 2 months or something. So then we can have a strategy going into 2022.
Well, I would think that the leverage of the midterm elections is out there too. Is that a date that can be used to put some pressure on some either moderate Republicans or even those Democrats out there who continue to say, well, I don't know about this, and I don't want to name names. There's a few out there, but it's not as just because you're a Democrat, you're automatically pro cannabis on this bill. We do know that there's some people out there that some senators out there who are already resisting any kind of movement outside of a state by state issue.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is dependent on are their states going legal? Do they have medical in their states? Do they have adult use in their states? That will affect their decision on a lot of people, even though someone like Dianne Feinstein, of California, right. It's not affecting her. Right. But I think that's important. How many states are legalizing versus the election is getting people nervous and we need to do something. Now, with that being said, history is showing that this election is usually not good for the incumbents in power, first term presidential election. So that could bode badly for the Democrats, and they could start looking for issues that energize people and get people out. And this could be an issue, next June, July, August, September, that they really lift to the forefront and start pushing to try to get it over the finish line to energize, activists and young voters. That could possibly happen. But, and the big thing I look for is how many ballot initiatives and how many states are doing something like that. That's a good issue because it brings out some voters.
Right. I believe it's Ohio seems to be the next one that they're talking
about. I can't keep up. Is that going to be on the ballot?
2022. That was definitely in the news this week. Right. That the question is being written, and if there's one thing the industry has learned, make sure that the question is written properly. Right. I mean, what happened? Right. I mean, it's happened in other states, and South Dakota still can't figure it out. Right.
For legal reasons, so it can actually get a court. The courts can approve it if it gets challenged, and then just for political reasons, so people actually support it and want to go out and vote for it.
Right. Go ahead, David.
Michael, what do you think is going to happen first? A marijuana bill or the infrastructure bill?
Infrastructure, because that's easy. Everyone loves their roads, everyone loves their bridges, so that's an easy one. I could see, from a priority standpoint, and Congress has been in their August recess. You would think I would know when they come back, but during COVID, we can't go to the Capitol, so it's almost like, oh, they're back in session. Great, because I can talk to people on the computer anytime. They're coming back from their August recess, and the federal budget the fiscal year is October 1st until September 30th, or however many days are in September. So that timeline is going to happen. The federal government will run out of money in the next 3 weeks. And between now and then, they are going to have to do a budget, and they are going to have to do something. And that will determine sort of the direction where they're going with infrastructure and with some of these other programs, because they're going to have to do something in the next 2 weeks. And they tend to get stuff done at the 11th hour. So on September 30th at 11 p.m., they'll pass a budget or they'll do something like that.
So we've got a member of the finance committee calling out the president for not showing any leadership on the cannabis front at all. You've got the CAO bill out there for public discussion. What do we want? Do we want the public? Do we need to engage the public and say, get on your phones, call your senators and tell them to get off their schneid and push this bill? I mean, is that something that can be a grassroots movement of some kind?
So the answer is yes. To get it over the finish line, it's going to be needed, but the devil is in the details. And, should they pass cannabis reform? Yes. But do we need a regulations with that? Yes. And what does that look like? That's something that's dividing big industry versus the smaller businesses, is dividing industry versus advocates about, hey, listen, what should legalization look for? Do they just kick it to the states and have fun? Do they kick it to the states and add a regulatory component? That's something we're working at now, because I'll be honest with you, the public wants this, but we're not exactly sure what they're going to call and ask for. Are they going to call and say, pass more? Are they going to call and say, pass, COA, or are they just going to call and say, legalize cannabis, stop doing this? I don't know.
Right. I get you.
Whereas with other things, it can be easy. Call Congress, give me healthcare. Call Congress, pass an infrastructure bill. It's a little easier because they know everyone wants, their infrastructure bills. Cannabis reform, I'm not exactly sure they know what they want. They just don't want to get arrested for it, and they want to be able to buy it.
Right. So that if you decriminalize at the federal level, if the simplest thing to do would be that administrative move to get it off the Controlled Substances Act to somehow but is that an irresponsible move, or will it just kind of make it go away at the federal level and allow that to just go to the states? Or is that is too radical?
From a federal government standpoint, how many people are getting arrested by the federal government right now? Most of the arrests are happening at the state and local level, and that's sort of cooked into their constitutions and their policies. And so, you could do something at the federal level to allow the states to free it up, but the states can go in those directions. Like, nothing's stopping a state right now from legalizing and decriminalizing and not arresting people, because that's where most of the arrests are. The problem is, this isn't a commodity like tomatoes, as much as we want it to be. If you just made it legal, like, now what? There has to be a regulatory component, because it isn't just like a computer chip or a pair of shoes or something, because it's nature as an intoxicant, a drug, a healthcare product, a pharmaceutical, lots of different areas that need to be worked out somehow, or there's just going to be a lot of gray area, and you're going to see issues pop up like you're seeing with Delta 8 and other things, that the science is going to be in front of the regulations, and it's not the best thing. We need to regulate it to make sure it's done right, and that's the biggest issue we're working at the federal government. I think we're getting a little too far ahead of ourselves. There's issues Congress can be doing now to make it easier. And let's be honest, as long as they're not interfering with the states are going forward right now and doing some legalization, and that's good. It's just not going as fast as I want it to go.
I don't think it's going fast as anybody wants it to go in the cannabis space, but that's a story for another day. Michael, we so appreciate you taking the time on a regular basis and joining us. We always enjoy to hear what's going on and what you're up against in the DC area. What is there anything that our followers and our people can do right now besides become members of the NCIA? Is there anything that we can engage people to do, like contact their local representatives from DC?
So one, I'm always going to push NCIA membership. We're doing an event in Michigan in 2 weeks. Make sure people go. We're doing our big annual conference in San Francisco in December. People need to be thinking about that going out. But checking locally to see, is their state already legal? If their state's already legal, they've done a lot. That's good. Looking through if there are federal officials in their states who aren't standing up. A perfect example, like people in California should be really hammering on Dianne Feinstein. Why she's not supportive of a multi-billion-dollar industry that has, 60, 70+% support, stuff like that. Where that's an easy lift to get someone like a Feinstein in a better place, and hearing from more of her constituents is important.
Right. Absolutely. And California is a good place. We have a lot of followers from California, which is bizarre, but it is what it is. We're trying to connect both coasts. No reason in the world why we can't. That's the thing about the plant. And I do harp on this a lot, is the plant is designed to bring people together. And here we have a country that is more divided than ever before. We can't even agree on a public safety issue about masking. Excuse me, sir. We're doing a show right now. Sir, excuse me. Anyway, I'm only kidding. I've been waiting to do that all show, by the way. And look, now if I move, check it out. There's our new show right there, live streaming at New England Cannabis Convention 24/7 on our website and what have you. So anyway, Michael, as always, a pleasure chatting with you. I look forward to talking with you again. If anytime, anything that comes up in DC and you really need an audience, now we've got one. Feel free to reach out, and our audience is your audience, and we appreciate your support.
Hey, thank you always for the time. And I guess I say happy birthday or happy anniversary.
It actually qualifies for both. September to me is a whole month of partying and celebration. You know, we throw in the Jewish New Year in there too, just for all my fellow tribesmen. So it's a good month. And as a soccer fan, American football, not American football. I watched Tom Brady. Yes, it was unbelievable. But that being said, soccer fan, it's also fall. And that is a great time of year. Anyway, Michael, always good to talk with you. I look forward to seeing you down the road, and we'll check back with you later. All right.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right. There he goes. There goes Michael Correia from the NCIA. Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
Difference is building a solution for that individual, not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the costs low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.
Pro Cannabis Media programming is available live and on demand on our Facebook page at Pro Canna Media, on Instagram at Pro Cannabis Media, on LinkedIn also at Pro Cannabis Media, on YouTube and YouTube Live on Pro Cannabis Media, Twitter at Pro Canna Media, and on twitch.tv/Pro Cannabis Media. So like, share, and subscribe to all of our content, newsletters, and shows live or on demand.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.